Paul DeRusso, born August 11, 1970, is an American serial killer who murdered 7 young women, including 2 who were pregnant, in the southeast United States between 1997 and 2003. German authorities suspect he may have killed several local women when he was stationed there with the army during the early 1990s. Typically, DeRusso would gain the victim's trust, enter the victim's home, tie their hands, rape, then strangle them to death. All of his known victims were young, single African-American women, some of whom were pregnant. Personal life. Paul DeRusso was born in Beaumont, Texas, in 1971. At the age of 1, DeRusso moved in with his mother's family in Los Angeles after his father, unwed to his mother, deserted the family. Little else is known publicly about Paul DeRusso's childhood. After graduating high school, 19-year-old DeRusso found himself working as a security guard. His first offenses with the law as an adult took place on December 18, 1991 and on January 21, 1992 for carrying a concealed firearm in California, and was stationed in Germany, where he met Natoka, who would later become his wife. The two married in 1995 in Las Vegas. In 1996, they were transferred to Fort Benning, Georgia. On March 13, 1997, he was arrested for kidnapping and raping a young woman. However, in August of that year he was cleared of those charges. Soon after, he was found in possession of stolen goods. He was court-martialed in January 1999, found guilty and dishonorably discharged from the Army. 3. The two moved to DeRusso's hometown of Jacksonville, Florida, where they had 2 daughters. It was during that period that he committed most of the murders. He struggled to keep jobs and make ends meet, and the couple would often have fights over the issue of finances. In 1999, the police advised DeRusso's wife on how to file for a restraining order after he allegedly slapped her in the face and grabbed her by the neck. Later, she testified he got violently angry when she talked about getting a divorce. In September and October 2001, DeRusso spent 48 days in jail for domestic battery. DeRusso still managed to hold various legitimate jobs. In 2001, he was hired as a school bus driver and an animal control worker despite being a convicted felon. In 2003, he worked as a taxi driver in Jacksonville, and it is now accepted that this is how he first came into contact with some of his victims. It was erroneously reported that Gator City Taxi Company failed to run a background check on DeRusso. Neighbors and friends described him as a lewd womanizer. He often asked young women when they planned to make flicks with him. A witness recalled DeRusso hitting on a girl that appeared to be 13 or 14 years old. Chronology of the murders. Less than 1 month after the acquittal over the rape charges, the nude body of 26-year-old Tracy Habersham was found on September 7, 1997 in Fort Benning. In 1999, he raped and killed 24-year-old Tyresa Mack in her apartment. Witnesses saw him leave her place with a television. On January 1, 2003, family members of 19-year-old Nakia Kilpatrick went to check on her. They had not had any news from her for several days. They found her body in the bedroom of her apartment. She had been raped, then killed by strangulation with a cord 2 days before. Her 2 sons, an 11-month-old and a 2-year-old, were alive but malnourished. Kilpatrick was approximately 6 months pregnant at the time of her death. On January 9 of the same year, 20-year-old nurse assistant Shawanda Denise McAllister, who was also pregnant at the time of her death, was raped and strangled to death in her Jacksonville apartment. The murder scene was almost identical to that of Nakia Kilpatrick. She was killed on DeRusso's first day of driving a cab for Gator City Taxi. Her body was found the following day. The next two victims were 17-year-old Giovanna Jefferson and 19-year-old Sarita Cohen. Their bodies were found close to each other in a ditch next to a construction site on New Kings Road in Jacksonville on February 5. Police estimated that Jefferson was murdered around January 20 and Cohen was killed 10 days later. Witnesses recount having seen the two last victims with a taxi driver fitting Paul DeRusso's description on the night they disappeared. He was arrested and charged with 5 counts of murder on June 17, 2003. On December 13, 2007 he was sentenced to die by lethal injection for the murder of Tyrese Mack. As of August 18, 2013, he was still a resident on Florida's death row at Union Correctional Institution. No execution date has been set.